Hey everyone, I'm the Exiled Ty, and let's talk about save skills. You gotta start using them if you have them, and if you don't, well, maybe I can convince you to try and summon for them when they come around. The skill is basically the hero's personification, skillification, of that one song from Shrek 2, aka Good. In any case, I'll be going over what save skills are, the pros and cons, refutation, and example builds. Make sure to subscribe for more Fire Emblem Heroes content and leave a like. Now then, let's get started.
Right away.
Starting off, save is a C skill that is only available to armored units and is split into near save and far save. I'm going to be referring to the unit with the save skill as the savior, and the unit who does not have the save skill and is being helped as the saved unit. Near save means if the foe uses some sort of short range attack like sword or beast damage and the savior is within 2 spaces, they would trigger the savior effect. Far save is the same thing except for long range attacks from the foe. Keep in mind that they do give in combat buffs of +4 to 2 different stats. What is the savior effect? Well, the savior unit enters combat in the saved unit's place. Think of it as one space being taken up by 2 units, and they're not a duo, or harmonic, or pair up, and I guess only one of the units does any work. That's not saying the saved unit isn't giving moral support, but they're not the ones taking the hit here. Also, if the armored unit who has the save skill is trying to save like a flyer who is above water or on a mountain, then the skill will not activate because armor units can't normally travel on that. And then, if multiple save skills are covering the same saved unit, then the save skill will not activate. I'm pretty sure that this means near save and near save units do not interact, but near save and far save units are okay. I only have a Valentine's Henriette, so I don't have a way to test this, so if anyone has, please comment that down below. Anyway, that's the description of save skills. Here I want to give a better visual of the whole thing. What we're looking at is just the base damage. If you notice on the right side, Henriette is saving Owain with attack res far save. You can see that she gets +4 attack and res from it. In this section, we're going to go a bit more in depth. Because the savior takes the place of the saved unit, they gain whatever in-combat support buff that the saved unit would get. But that also means they could lose in-combat buffs from where they are. This also includes in-combat debuffs, so consider that when using and fighting against save skills. In this example, on the left side, we see Owain's uncle, Crom, come in with dry speed 2. When Henriette comes to save Owain, you can see that she gets the dry speed bonus. I don't have a diagram for this, but if Crom was on the other side, next to the Fae statue, Henriette would only get the dry speed 2 buff if Leonie was initiating combat against her. But if it's on Owain, and since he's not close enough to the Fae statue Crom, then Henriette, who is the savior, would not get the dry speed 2 buff. On the right side, there is Brave Claude with attack speed Rhyme. He debuffs the area where Owain is, and as Henriette comes in to save him, she gets hit by the attack speed Rhyme debuff. And just like the Crom example, if Claude was over next to the Fae statue, he would debuff the area that Henriette is in, but when she comes to save Owain, she won't be affected by attack speed Rhyme. As you might imagine, the savior can bring any visible buff or penalties when they come to save. They can be hurt by panic like anyone else. In this example, male Robin is giving +4 to all of Henriette's stats, and she carries that when she comes to save Owain. If you remember the base damage, Henriette actually dies, so the buffs are indeed working. In this example on the right side, Volter with Panic Ploy comes and ruins the buffs on Henriette, and that's carried on for when she comes to save Owain. The whole thing of 2 characters in one space is pretty cool, because apparently that means they're considered adjacent to each other. So if the saved unit or an ally who's adjacent to the saved unit has a spur skill, that buff is passed on to the savior unit. Here's a visual example. On the left, Owain has spur speed 1, so Henriette gets that small speed buff as you can see. And on the right, Owain doesn't have the spur speed 1, instead Morgan has it and he still passes that buff to Henriette when she comes to save Owain. I didn't get a visual for this, but if Henriette were to have a bond skill, she would get the effect when she goes to be the savior. That's one way to make bond skills pretty useful. Most people tend to use solo skills, but when working with save skills, bonds are going to be the better choice here. One last thing is the dancer rule. A video made by Penrost 776, sorry if I said that wrong, made a great informative video on why dancer AI chooses to attack or dance. For this video, I'll only be talking about how this affects save skills. The original video goes far more in depth with the dancer rule, and it's an interesting watch. I'll put a link to that video in the description. Basically, when the dancer's AI has a choice to either attack or dance an ally, they will look at how much damage they can do. If it's above 5, they will probably choose to attack. If a dancer chooses to attack a foe because they can do more than 5 damage, but then there's a savior unit who's nearby and the dancer cannot deal 5 damage to the savior, they'll most likely choose to dance instead. Save skills can change up the dancer AI to attack or not attack, which is important to keep in mind when using save skills, especially if you don't want the dancer to help their more powerful ally, or maybe you do. Before we continue, here are some things to consider. Base SP cost is about 300, so it's not as expensive as higher level skills for arena scoring. Berdramon's Impenetrable Dark skill does not negate the savior effect or the in-combat buff you get, but it does prevent other allies and the save unit from providing spur buffs and such. You can still save someone, you'll just be a little bit alone in the fights. Remember that the savior effect is triggered during combat, so AoE specials, which happen before combat, will hurt the save unit, but the AoE user will enter combat against the savior unit. That is something to think about when you're fighting against someone like Ophelia. Using the skill in arena is okay, but it's a bit more difficult as the maps are random, and if you're defending, well, you can't edit the placement of the units. Sometimes your intended unit to save wanders too far. Remember, save skills are only available for armored units, so you might want to consider armored boots or armored march. Armored boots works well with allies of different movement types, but you do have to be careful as your savior unit is going to want to take hits, and if you don't bring some way of healing, then the boots will fail. Armor march works wonderfully. Of course, not as good with other movement types. Guidance also works, but more so if you're in control. But if you're going to use save on defense teams with the AI control, guidance is alright. All of this is an issue in arena. However, in Ether raids, it's not a big issue because you have more freedom to control where to place your stuff on defense teams. I would strongly recommend using the skill in AR rather than in other game modes. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons of using Savior. For pros, this skill can protect your glass cannon units. You can feel safe giving them life and death 4 or something without worrying that they'll die before they get to wreak havoc. Getting +4 in combat buffs is very nice as it can't be hit by panic. It does mess with people's strategies as they think, oh, I can take out this one enemy, but then they can't because of a savior unit. It's a stellar C skill and it's amazing on powerful enemy phase units. Con-wise, it's difficult to attain as of this video's making. That's unavoidable. There's only Dedue, who's the 5-star exclusive, and Valentine's, Henriette, and Gustave, who are limited units. The skill mainly works on units with a certain stat line, which limits who can use it. Since it's a C skill, you'll have to give up high scoring skills like Joint Drive or others. And last, it does require some foresight to ensure that the skill is used to its max. But the point of this video is not just to inform you about save skills. Other people have already done that. This video is about convincing you to use them. You see those cons? Yeah, well, the only one I can't refute is, it's difficult to obtain. But for everything else, here goes. It's perfectly fine that only enemy phased units can make use of the skill. Sigurd is basically an enemy phase skill, and people love that hot man. It has about the same amount of support and buffs like other C skills, and while it doesn't have the best arena scoring value, you can't deny it has a lot of usage value. And if pairing and foresight is an issue, well, you can use ally support, and also just use it in Ether raids. Maybe that didn't convince you. Perhaps a more personal story will. You see, I started this project a long time ago, and then I started to follow motivation to complete it, mostly because of school and everything else. But then one day, one fated but also terrible day, I fought against a brave Hector with a near save skill. Now, I'm sure many of you know how amazing Brave Hector is, especially since he got that incredible weapon refined from Maltet, which basically makes him a god in enemy phase. You can tell where this story's going. I'm in Ether raids, and on the right, there's a brave Ephraim and a brave Hector side by side. I think, oh, I can just take out this Ephraim right here with my +7 Mia and just reposition back since Hector can't reach me. No march, no boots. Turns out, it didn't work out that way with Hector in his save skill. So I say, well, I can just use my legendary Dimitri, plus speed by the way, to take out this Hector. Interestingly enough, Dimitri loses in the combat forecast. Like what? How? And all of my other units are on the left side, probably trying to, I don't know, take out a secret or something. I'm struggling on the right over here. And because of this tragic event, I finally realized, wow, this skill is very powerful and also very annoying. Now, you might be thinking, if this skill is so annoying, why am I trying to convince people to use the skill more? Wouldn't that mean more people use it in Ether raids? Yes, and that's good because more people will feel my pain. Also, it's not like it's a bad C skill to use, so it's a win-win for everyone, come on. Speaking of win-win, let's take a look at some example builds that will get you the win. Black Knight is a heroic grill unit, so he's easy to get, and with that new Alone Knight Refine, he's looking very sharp. Other enemy phase skills like Fear Stance and Distant Defense are going to work wonderfully with save skills. Everyone's favorite unit of all time, Fallen Edgeguard, has Attack Defense Bond, because I couldn't find the Attack Defense Steel icon, whatever. But as I said before, Bond works amazing with save. Plus, Fallen Edgeguard's Twin Crest Power and Armored Wall do not care about how many allies are nearby, so Bond and save work great. And of course, there's Hector to the right. The next one here is just the same unit, but with max Dragon Flowers. I do want to mention Unity on Black Knight, as Attack Defense Unity and Attack Res Unity are incredible skills with or without save. I also want to point out Ether on Hector. The Savior unit is most likely going to take the most hits. In short battles like AR and Arena, that's fine, but in longer game modes like Tempest Trials or Chain Challenges, you might want to consider some method of healing. This last set is all of them at max. Most people are going to get the plus 10 Black Knight, and if you have a plus 10 fully maxed out Fallen Edgeguard, I don't want to fight that. I'm actually scared to meet you, so yeah. The Hector to the right brings up an idea, Wings of Mercy. I want you to consider this. What if your allies are too far away for the Savior to activate? Well, if they're low on HP, then there you go. Your Savior can hop on over to help out, and then they'll be stuck there, and save your units during the enemy phase. And the attack smoke does bring up a good thought. I'm pretty sure that the smoke skill will activate, but I'm not sure if it will activate where the save unit is or where the savior is. I would assume it's where the save unit is. That makes the most sense, but feel free to leave a comment if you know. Alright, thank you for watching. I don't know what else to put in these end card parts, so do you want to hear some behind the scenes kind of stuff? Let's see, I create folders whenever I make a video on something, and the folder for the save skills was created back when, I think, when Valentine's, Henriette, and Gustave were released. I think I summoned Henriette and used her in Tempest Trials, and I was like, wow, I want to make a video on this. But then I didn't do anything for like months. It wasn't until that Hector story happened, and then I started to get back working on this. I finished the assets and the script a while back, and then forgot about it, and then came back to it and revised everything. You see those screenshots using Summary Leone? Those were originally with Legendary Lyn until I realized I didn't take off Swift Moligear and Laws of Decay, so that had to be revised. And when I finally revised everything, I realized, what if other people have already made a video on save skills? So I looked up fake save skills on YouTube, and a lot of people already made a video on the skills, so that kind of sucked. I didn't watch any of them because honestly I don't watch Hero's content, I haven't in years. But I hope that none of them encourage the audience to use save skills because of spite, like I did. Also, the image before you is the original thumbnail, but then I created one with Henriette and showed both to my friends, and they voted in favor of Henriette over Dedue, so that's how it was created. With all that, subscribe, leave a like, and if you want, I have a Twitter at exo_ty. Stay hydrated, folks, and see you later.